Hi, my name is Mike. I'm a professor for social work management, and you are listening to Managing Around, the bi-weekly podcast about social science, culture, and management. Managing Around is part of the Talk About Organizations podcast network, a community resource and discussion platform for key ideas in management and organization studies, which is supported by our listeners.
Everyone in business studies is talking about digital transformation or digitalisation. Yes, both developments are directly or indirectly affecting all areas of an organization. Not to mention the fact that it also changes our life and society as a whole. But how important is this aspect to social work and human service organizations? This new episode will explore this question and discusses first and foremost what digital leadership includes, secondly, how it is relevant to social work institutions, and thirdly and finally, how social work managers can adapt to this ever-changing situation. Let's start with the question of what digital leadership is. Digital leadership is, in the words of Sheninger from 2019, and I quote, a strategic mindset that leverages available resources to improve what we do while anticipating the changes needed to cultivate an organizational culture focused on efficiency. End of quote. In general, social work institutions need to further develop leadership in the digital age by adopting a long-term perspective, which can only be achieved if a common digital competence exists. This is caused by and supported through advances in information technology as well as disruptive and innovative business models. For example, smartphone technologies, apps on all digital devices, increasing connectivity, formerly physical or now turned into digital devices such as smart home gadgets, that go hand in hand with automatization, flexibilization, and individualization. Leadership in this context of digital transformation involves different types of organizational change processes. On the one hand, the concept of organizational development can be characterized as follows. In the context of organizational development, working conditions are partially changed, often with reference to scientific concepts to provoke behavioral and attitudinal changes in the staff. This can happen through the introduction of new software or apps and digital devices. On the other hand, organizational transformation is seen as a paradigmatic change of the entire organization. For example, in terms of vision, structures, processes, and working conditions, applying scientific concepts. It aims at behavioral and attitudinal changes of staff to shape desired future relationships with and within the organizational environment. A transformation can happen when a social work institution wants to implement concepts such as virtual youth work or cyber youth work, formerly not provided by the organization. Let's move on to our second part and question of this episode. How is digital transformation also relevant to social work organizations? These challenges are directly related to the integration of digital technologies, concepts, and strategies in almost all areas of social care. There are 4 applications I would like to highlight today. Changes in structures, processes, and strategies of an organization, service robotics and artificial intelligence, digital transformation through participation, and last but not least, training, coaching, and other support services. First, advancing digital transformation encompasses changes in structures, processes, and strategies of organizations and the entire value chain. New business models for digital platforms and intelligent networking, secure data exchange, contract management between provider and customer, as well as intelligent analysis of data in the so-called digital economy, needs to be taken into account also in the provision of social care services. Secondly, service robotics and artificial intelligence. There are many practical examples available that use aids in elderly care to support people with limited capabilities, such as assisted living technologies, intelligent voice recognition, and dialogue systems. Also, blockchain technologies in the context of data exchange between welfare and service providers can reduce high administrative effort. The development, implementation, and evaluation of concepts for social virtual youth work, also known as cyber street work or virtual youth work 2.0, can provide a technological and conceptual basis for future developments. Thirdly, digital participation has become a basic prerequisite for inclusion in society. While economic and demographic factors can exacerbate the digital divide, particularly in disadvantaged communities, there will always be people who do not have yet access to new technologies or cannot pay the required attention to properly use them. Fourthly, training, coaching, and other support services are required to develop digital literacy and leadership skills, not only for professionals and for managers, that go beyond the traditional mindset. We can now move on to the third and last question of this episode today. How can social work managers become digital change agents? Within those organizations, individuals can act in various roles and can actively promote and generally support innovation and change processes. As follows, we can refer to a typology by Rost et al. From 2007 of the so-called promoters in the change and transformation process. According to a multi-stakeholder perspective, promoters are individuals that manage, support, or indirectly affect, in any capacity, the process of innovation within an organization. Different concepts and types of such innovating people have been developed. They have also to deal with ignorance, unwillingness, and resistance of critics, the so-called opponents, that prevent or delay innovation processes. Just as an example, I will refer to the model by Rost, Hölzle, and Gmünden from 2007, which distinguishes between the following four types of individuals. First, there are power promoters, who promote innovation through hierarchical power and their connection to the company owner. Secondly, expert promoters, who promote innovation because of their specific expertise, ideas, and knowledge. Third, there are process promoters, who have technological and organizational knowledge and are a kind of translators within the organization and can bring the two aforementioned promoters, the power promoters and expert promoters, together. And last but not least, there also exist relationship promoters, who support the innovation process through their network competence. They are indispensable for coordination tasks, information exchange, connecting the organization with external partners to improve relations, overcoming mistrust, and settling conflicts. All these promoters are key actors in the innovation and transformation process and must fulfill the expectations placed on them for a successful outcome. We now come to the end of this episode, and let's summarize the main thoughts. Digital transformation affects all parts of the organization and society as a whole. In this episode, we asked how significant is this to social work and human services. We have discussed what digital leadership competences may include and how these are relevant also for social work managers. However, Challenges are connected to integrating digital technology, concepts, and methods in social care institutions, such as by advancing digitalisation through intelligent contract management, service robotics and IE, cyber street work, taking care for people in disadvantaged areas of society, and through promoting digital literacy skills. We also spoke about in what kind of roles social work managers can participate in processes of digital transformation. There are the so-called power, expert, process, and relationship promoters, to mention just a few. We have now come to the end of this episode. If you are interested in this topic, you can expand your knowledge by exploring the references mentioned in the show notes.
Thank you for listening. Managing Around, the bi-weekly podcast about social science, culture, and management. Managing Around is part of the Talk About Organizations podcast network, a community resource and discussion platform for key ideas in management and organization studies, which is supported by our listeners. If you liked this episode, please leave a review on your favorite podcast website. There's also a link in the show notes. If you've got any thoughts on this episode, or if you've got any idea about new podcast topics or questions you'd like to discuss, send me an audio file or voice note to hi@profmanagement.de. For any non-audio comments, drop a tweet or DM to @profmanagement on Twitter or Instagram, please. For more information, visit my website www.profmanagement.de. Thank you for listening and see you next time.